I'm joined by Mark Hutchings, chairman of the Kingston Veterans Village Project. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thank you, Donna.
We're just in the season of Remembrance Day, so this is really timely. So tell me about your project.
Our project aims to end veterans' homelessness in Canada. And so Kingston is the one I'm working on, and we hope to have a village created by 2023 and start taking our first tenants in then.
Wow. So. And now, to be clear, these are not the same as the cabins, the sleeping cabins that we hear so much about. Yeah, this is a different thing altogether.
Yes, these are complete with all the amenities. They're a tiny home, 300 square feet. They have everything you'd expect, a bedroom, washroom, kitchenette, and bathroom. There are going to be 20 of them, arranged in groups of 4. We call them quads, and one complete set will be accessible. And then there's also going to be a central building, which will be the resource center, which houses counselors, training facilities, laundry facilities, that sort of thing.
So people move into these, veterans move into these, mostly men or both?
It is quite remarkable. There was a House of Commons committee which looked into veterans' homelessness in 2019, and they found that veterans are much more like, there are probably 5,000 homeless veterans across the country. That was the first finding, which I found astonishing. Yeah. And then they found that after service in the military, there's a lot of difficulty for many people in going back into civilian society, probably because of what they saw and what they had to do. And remarkably, women, female veterans, are twice as likely as male veterans to be homeless.
Really?
That's counterintuitive.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. That's is curious.
And the first graduate we had, because there's rehabilitation and counseling and courses that are set up for these folks, the first graduate we had who then resumed a normal life, got reunified with her family, and is fully employed, it was a female.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
they don't move into one of these 300 square foot spaces and say, well, this is where I'm going to live out my life.
No, that's not it. That's sort of the Royal Military Hospital in Chelsea's approach, and that's not what we're doing. We are actually giving these people a hand up. We're not giving them a handout. They have to really become devoted to their own rehabilitation. Okay. There's a pretty careful screening system that goes on with interviews. We sit them down. They find out what actual programs they're eligible for as a homeless person and as a veteran. Most of them are not aware that they're eligible for any of these things. Mm-hmm. And then we actually charge them a very modest rent, which covers all the utilities and the expenses of them living there while they're rehabilitated. So it's actually a self-supporting program. The taxpayers of Kingston will be happy to know we'll never be coming back asking for funds from the municipal government. We don't need that. It doesn't work that way.
So once it's built, then it's
self-supporting.
It's self-supporting, but in the meantime, you need to do some fundraising to get it off the ground.
Yes.
How's that coming along?
Coming very well. Of the 20 structures that we're putting up, we have got donations, generous donations from, I think, 13 organizations here in Kingston. So far, a couple more have registered great interest, and I'm certain that they will pledge and donate. So we're very confident that we'll meet our goals. But it's almost all private sector, and I say that the cash is to do the construction is all private sector. We did get the land donated by the provincial government, which was terrific, and a small amount of seed money. Which is helping to pay for the initial architect's design, surveyors' costs, that sort of thing.
And this is located on toward Lake Ontario Park. It's up in that area.
It is, across the street from St. Lawrence College,
Okay.
near Heeks Lane, near that little Government of Ontario service centre there.
Okay.
And it's an absolutely delightful site. It's a beautiful site. It's going to be the premier site in Canada for one of our villages. We have one in Calgary already operating in 2019. The second one just opened last December in Edmonton. We are going to be the third. And what's interesting is, you know, Kingston is a relatively small city, 140,000 say. If we can do it, all the other towns and cities in the country will believe they can do it.
Absolutely.
And we are going to have an absolutely beautiful site because we designed the look of the buildings to be like Kingston, like Sydenham Ward. So it's got kind of a faux copper roof with faux limestone front and bay windows. They're very attractive. Ours is going to be the showcase for Canada.
That is wonderful. You know, it kind of gives me a warm fuzzy just thinking about that.
Well, warm fuzzy and energy efficient.
And energy. So we always think of veterans as being people that have, you know, their limb missing, or, you know, they're clearly, but that's not the case anymore. You wouldn't know that someone is dealing with what they are dealing with. Are these career people who were in for 20 years, or are they ones who are just a short time? What's the usual profile?
Well, I think both, all of those. And I think it can affect anyone. I think probably it has been going on for 100 years with our veterans, and we haven't necessarily understood it or recognized it well.
Well, they used to call it shell shock.
Shell shock in the First World War, moral fortitude, combat fatigue. It's had all those names as our understanding of the problem has increased over the years, and now there is treatment. There are remedies for it, and we can go after it.
You know, Mark, I can remember when Patton with George C. Scott came out, and there was that scene where he berates the young man who said, "It's my nerves," and he berated him, and we all kind of cheered. That here's the slacker, and he's going at him. We kind of cheered, and that was quite a few years ago. But it is nice to hear that now we're looking at it differently and saying no, that this is clearly, and it was caused because you served your country.
Quite right. It's amazing. One of the reasons this problem has been, to a certain extent, invisible for the last 50 years is that anybody on the street who is homeless, who goes into a shelter or goes into a food bank or goes into a feeding station, they don't identify themselves as soldiers or veterans. They're ashamed of the fact they're on the street. They came from an environment that was, you know, I say success-oriented, huge teamwork, great discipline, and now they're in this condition. They don't advertise the fact of who they are. So it's an invisible problem.
Yeah. How do you find them?
Well, I personally don't. You know, we have experts. We've got terrific partners in town. The Royal Canadian Legion does identify them. You know, Lunch by George or a couple of these other homeless shelters, you know, will get the idea or see the tattoo, or, you know, there'll be a reference, and then we can take over.
Yeah, they're not as likely in the U.S. They all seem to wear the baseball cap that outlines exactly where they were, what they did. But we don't see that here. They seem to do a lot of that notice, but we don't do that.
Well, we do have the regimental system in Canada, which is really probably one of the most effective ways you can create a team spirit and a fighting group that is highly capable. And that regimental system, you know, if you're exceptionally proud of your regiment, you're not going to let it down. You're not going to really advertise the fact that you were in the Royal Canadian Regiment or the Princess Patricia's Light Infantry or whatever. I see. Plus the fact that a number of these folks, those regiments I just named are, you know, long storied, famous regiments. People who get, who suffer from PTSD, frequently they are clerks or accountants or cooks.
Oh, really?
They had to put up with really extreme stress in an environment they were not necessarily fully prepared for. The guys who do combat don't necessarily suffer from PTSD.
Oh, really?
Well, I just say it covers all trades, all genders.
So interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. Wow. Well, I've learned a lot today. Now, you still got some fundraising to do.
We have.
If people want to help, want to get involved in some way, how can they do that?
Well, I think on the screen we have our website up, and I would encourage you to go there. You can donate, and I would encourage you to do through Canada Helps, which is a donation which will give you your tax receipt, charitable tax receipt, immediately. And so we very much appreciate that help, and I thank you for mentioning that.
And is there anything else that people can do to get involved?
Well, we've had some terrific volunteer corporations who've said, as you're finishing up their rehabilitation, come see us, we'll hire them. And so they'll offer a training course. If it's voluntary, obviously. If the person is interested in doing that kind of work, there are now jobs coming forward. So if any of your watchers feel they can employ a veteran who's probably got umpty-ump qualifications already, and has been rehabilitated, we'd very much appreciate that.
That's really good. I wouldn't have thought of that either. I've learned a lot. This is great, and it's so nice meeting you, Mark.
Thank you, Donna.